Hello, everybody. All right. So I want to talk today, excuse me, about a book I'm reading. So I am reading this book, The Mountain Is You by Brianna Weist. I'm not sure how you pronounce her last name, Weist. And it's just, there's a lot of really good stuff in this book. I'm only on chapter 4, so I'm about halfway through right now. And I was reading a few things, and I actually did a social media post about this today. But I was reading a few things that just really struck me. And it is about adversity. And it's about putting ourselves into adversity or allowing ourselves to be in adversity and feeling adversity, and why that is actually important for our growth. Not just like adversity for your body, so working out and pushing yourself that way, but for physical growth and, being healthy and things like that, but also for our minds, how challenges and adversity really help create our minds and mold our minds into what they are. So I'm going to read a couple of passages from here. It says, but our minds need adversity, and that's why it is instinctual to keep creating problems, even if there aren't any real ones in front of us. So what she's saying here is that our minds seek out adversity because it does help them mentally grow and develop. And when we aren't faced with adversity, when everything's going great in our lives, our bodies and our minds kind of seek it out and kind of create adversity around us. And I feel like this happened to me a lot at the beginning of this year, or well, it's 2022 now, at the beginning of 2021. The end of 2020 and the beginning of 2021 were wonderful. Like, my office was going great. My husband and I were getting ready to start our home build. Like, so many things were lining up for us and things were going really good. And it's almost like my body can't allow me to have really good things for a long time. So it starts seeking out some drama or some adversity. And starting March of 2021, everything just snowballed. It was like nothing was lining up. Everything was so hard. And I felt like it stayed that way up until maybe even just a month or 2 months ago, that everything just was so hard and life seemed so hard. And there's so many things happening, so many negative things happening, so much adversity all around me. So it's really interesting when you think about some of this stuff. When things seem to be going good, then it seems like some things start not going good. But it's really because our minds are looking for that challenge and looking for that adversity. So the human mind is something called anti-fragile, which means that it actually gets better with adversity, like a rock that becomes a diamond under pressure, or an immune system that strengthens after repeated exposure to germs. The mind requires stimulation in the form of a challenge. The cultural obsession with chasing happiness, shielding oneself from anything triggering, and the idea that life is primarily good and any challenge we face is a mistake of fate, and are what actually weakens us mentally. Shielding the mind from any adversity makes us more vulnerable to anxiety, panic, and chaos. So, people who are trying to stay out of adversity, people who think everything is triggering, probably are people who have a lot more anxiety and chaos and depression in their lives, because they're not allowing themselves to face that face that adversity head on and really power through it and help make them stronger. And now I don't want to say that all the negative stuff in your life was there to make you stronger. I mean, you hear that, and yes, that is a thing. Negative things that happen in your life, when you get through it, you typically do feel a little bit stronger. And then when you look back years later, you can be like, man, I was a badass. I got through that. But they're really there to challenge you and to help you grow and to see what kind of person you are. Now, if I could take away all the negative things that happened to me in my life and all the bad things that happened to me, my father passed away when I was 3, which was not good. I mean, it was really hard on my family. Would I go back and change that? I mean, I would want to. I wouldn't want my father to pass away, but because he passed away, so many other things happened in my life. And really those things have made me who I am now. And I love who I am now. So it's really hard for me to say, you know what? I wish that would have happened. I wish that wouldn't have happened. I wish that wouldn't have happened. I'd be so much different if that would have happened, especially from coming from where I am now, because I love who I am now. 10, 12 years ago, 8 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago, when I didn't love who I was, or I didn't love where I was in life, could I go back then and say, man, I wish that wouldn't have happened. So much would be changed. I'd be such a different person. Yeah, probably then, because I was really stuck in that trauma, stuck in that adversity that I wasn't facing and I wasn't getting through. So the truth about your psyche is this: anything that is new, even if it is good, will feel uncomfortable until it is also familiar. So we seek out being comfortable. Like, we don't want to be uncomfortable. But if you are not uncomfortable, then you are not growing in life. Being uncomfortable is how you grow. Challenging yourself is how you grow. Seeking out some hard, mental, physical challenges will really help you grow in life. And so I feel like I'm kind of a person who does that, especially physical challenges, because I like physical challenges. I'm a physical person. I'm physically fit. I like to push my body as hard as I can. So for me, how physical challenges started was doing triathlons. So years ago, I started doing triathlons, and I started with a sprint distance, and then I graduated up to Olympic distance, and then I finally did a half Ironman. And I always said, I'm never going to do an Ironman. Never, ever, 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 ever going to do an Ironman. But this year I realized, which I've talked about this a little bit, that was my bitch voice talking, and I was going to be a boss and not a bitch. And I decided I had to do an Ironman. So I'm right now, in the process of training for an Ironman. So that is September 25th in Chattanooga, Tennessee. So I am training for that right now. And it's going to be a long process. It's going to be a lot of work. It's going to be a lot of biking, swimming, and running, and things that I don't always want to do, but I'm going to do it because I like a challenge. I like pushing myself physically. And then after triathlons, I needed something else to do. So I decided that I was going to start doing figure competitions. So bodybuilding type competitions, but not quite as intense as bodybuilding. So if you know anything about figure competitions, it's a lot of lifting weights. It's a very, 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 very strict diet because you want to get as much body fat off your body as possible so you can see your musculature better. And so that's what I did. And I did, fairly well. I won a couple shows. I was always in top 5 when I did it. My body carries a little more muscle. Probably now going back, or if I would go back to it, I'd have to do bikini because it seems like the girls are getting bulkier and bulkier. So these bikini girls actually have a lot of muscle now. But I did figure, and I really enjoyed it for a couple of years. I really pushed myself. I really saw what I was made of. And then after that, I lifted weights. I kind of floundered around physically, didn't really commit to anything physically until I committed to, I ran a half marathon, but COVID shut the half marathon down. I'd signed up before COVID, and then COVID happened, so it didn't happen. But I still ran because I'd been training for it, so I still ran that in March of 2020, I believe. But I haven't really done anything physically for quite a few years, and doing 75 hard really stepped up my game physically, but also mentally, like way more mentally than physically. And so that's why, again, I decided that I needed to do a Ironman. And if you don't know what an Ironman is, it is the longest triathlon that there is. So it's a 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike, and a 26.2 mile run at the end. So it's a lot of freaking work, and it's going to take me a long time. It's going to take me hours and hours and hours, like a long time to do. And that's in September. But, I love reading stories and watching movies of people who triumph over, things physically. I love sports movies. I love books about sports people or anybody who does anything physically who triumphs over something. So I read Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. This was probably 2 years ago or a year and a half ago that I listened to it on Audible. It's a really good Audible book, so it's a good one to listen to. I listened to Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, which David Goggins, if you don't know who he is, you should definitely look him up. He's like a badass of all badasses. So he's a Navy SEAL, I believe. Now I could be saying this wrong, but he went through SEALs training twice. And I think it's because he got injured at the end or something. I can't 100% remember. But he's done ultra marathons. I mean, he pushes himself to the max. Like, he is one of those guys who I will never be there. I don't want to be there. Him and I think it's James Lawrence, the book called The Iron Cowboy, which is my next book to read. I haven't read it yet, but he did 50 Ironmans, which I just told you what an Ironman was, in 50 states in 50 days. So 50 consecutive days he did an Ironman in 50 different states. I've read a little bit of the story, and he's pretty badass also. But going back to David Goggins has a few challenges, and one of them is the 4x4x48. So the 4x4x48 challenge is a challenge where you run 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. So you end up running 48 miles in 2 days. And it's a lot. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it in March. So second weekend of March is what I have planned for that as of right now, to do the David Goggins challenge. You know, I'm already training for an Ironman. I figure I might as well throw in 48 miles in 2 days and see what happens. You know, when you're doing these long sporting events, it's really a mental game. Like, if you've done any sort of training, your body can probably physically do it. Now, I know some people's bodies physically break down and they can't. Like, things happen. The body will break down. Yes, if you haven't properly trained, if you're not properly hydrated, if you don't have the proper nutrition, there's a lot of things that can happen. But if you are ready for it, like, physically, then it's 100% mental. Because when you're on that bike and you're at I'm doing half my Ironman, so mile 30, and you're just like, fuck, oh my God, still have 26 miles left, and then I have to run 13.1. It's hard. And I can imagine what I'm going to think when I'm on mile 56 of a 112-mile bike, you know, how beaten down I'm going to feel and how broken I'm going to feel and how I'm going to feel like I don't want to go anymore. But mentally, it's good for my body. It's good for my mind. Our bodies, our minds need adversity. We need challenges. That is the only way to grow and become better, is to face challenges, is to face them head on and confront them and blow through them, blow them out of the water. I know it sounds hard. Start small. Not everybody's where I am physically or mentally. Start small. What's a challenge for you? So I had somebody reach out to me today, and she had some, she used to go to CrossFit, and she had some stuff around going back to CrossFit because there were a lot of things going on in her life that were negative when she was going to CrossFit. And she was saying that it, you know, her body, she gets all this anxiety thinking about going back to CrossFit, even though that's what she wants to do. And so my advice was, go drive to the CrossFit gym and sit outside of the gym for 5 minutes and then leave. And the next day, drive back to the gym, sit outside the gym for 5 minutes and then leave. This is facing adversity. That's facing the trauma. That's reprogramming and rewriting that story. Because you don't have to have that anxiety going to that gym. Rewrite that story. We all can do it. It's just whether or not we're going to. But we can all do hard things. We do them every day. We don't always acknowledge ourselves for them. But we can all do some hard shit. So get out there. Don't create adversity in your minds. You know, don't go to your spouse and pick a fight just to create a little adversity. But when adversity comes your way, face it. Get through it. Work through it. Process it. Whatever it is you need to do. And then intentionally put your body in a little adversity. Sign up for something. Sign up for a 5K, half marathon, Ironman. Sign up for the 4x4x48. Hey, I'm doing it the second weekend of March. I think it's like maybe the 11th and 12th, whatever that Friday and Saturday is. Since I don't work on Fridays, I'm doing it Friday and Saturday so I can recover on Sunday. If you want to do it with me, let me know. Let's do it together. Not that we have to physically run together, but, you know, we can virtually do it together. Everything's virtual anyways. All right. So get out in life. Do what you need to do. Face adversity head on. Challenge yourself mentally, physically, and grow, grow, grow. All right, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.